I was looking at the recent edition of Model Railroader, the American magazine. I used to live in the US, so I'm aware of the price of model trains over there. I was absolutely taken back by how expensive things have become. Apparently, all the outsourcing of European and American manufacturers to China 20 or so years ago was supposed to reduce costs, but apparently things are more expensive than ever. Now, I want to show you three locos I have here. The first one there, that Mantua, beautiful little 060 steam engine with the tender, along with that British Rail 080 class shunter from my childhood. It's going on 50 years old. And also just to the right of that, behind the tree, you can see a Ginty, also made by Hornby, going back nearly as long. I decided I wanted to re-motor them because the old Hornby motors were burnt out or just weren't running that well. Never really ran that well. The top speeds would be like 300 miles an hour at 12 volts on your throttle control on your transformer. So I got three motors from China, ironically, and they were 24 volts each. Now I've often wanted to remotor small engines like this or any kind of rolling stock, especially the small ones, or to try and reduce the speed. And the thing was that it always seemed very complicated when I looked on the magazines. You'd have to do engineering basically and refit things and fabricate metal. I just stuck these motors in with regular two-part epoxy putty and a bit of super glue. In fact, the next project I'll do, I'll walk through it and show how I did it. But these engines have never run this well in their entire life. The Mantua 060 steam engine, this one coming by, it was a beautiful little thing, is a cast metal body, but the tender has, well, it has wheels that are so fine they're actually less than RP25, which I think is a North American standard for HO wheels. They're practically scale, so there's a lot of weight in that tender, a tremendous amount of weight in the tender, just to keep the bogies tracking, because the trucks tracking, as Americans call them, not bogies, because the pickup is from that side. I put the motor in the three of them, the same motor, 24 volts, and they're running like a dream. They've never run, that engine I've had all my life, that blue '08 shunter, has never run as well as it does now. It goes over dead frog points, including the one Triang Super 4 point that's on this layout. And the same with the Mantua. They crawl over points no problem. The 24 volts means his top starting speed is about 7 or 8 volts. But that's the beginning speed. The top speed is scale. It's pretty much scale speed. So you don't have a shunter or a switcher flying around your layout at 300 miles an hour. Or it's the only way you can get it over points and switches or turnouts is by running them at high speed. These now glide over at scale speed. And I can't believe the three motors together cost me less than €5. I think they were €4.80 without postage. And I put nylon worm gears on them, connecting to the original drive gear system. And they run like I can't believe the difference. They're incredible. And I've restored these engines, three of them, with new motors for €5, which is about $5 or $6, maybe $7 max. And you look at the price of new trains. Now, granted, these are DC, and I'll always stay with DC. But there's the Ginty going by. You'll notice there's a slight wobble to the Ginty and the Hornby Ginty and the Hornby 080, and that's not caused by the motor not being fit correctly. That's caused by the bearings that the original axles run in, the 50-year-old bearings. They're worn down from decades of use, and as a result, they're not centered properly. But that hasn't affected the performance in any way, and there's something also kind of charming about the way they wobble like that. They like are on bad track. But that's just, I could replace them by putting new bearings in, but I'm not going to go that far. I just want the engines on the tracks and running and going and moving and being able to switch and run at scale speeds. I'm putting these very, very inexpensive 24 volt motors into them, and they're tiny too. They could probably fit in many N scale or N gauge layouts, particularly cab units like F units and maybe British N gauge size. But look at how that goes over there. Not a problem. Right over those points. Around a bother in the world. And that's top speed, mind you. I can get them much slower than this. Much slower. And because you'll see it's double-headed there, the motors are identical. And also the drive systems are identical as well in those Hornby. You can double header with 2 motors, no problem. I can't get over how well they are. They breathed new life into old engines, and I love that. I love that Mantua 060. It's an absolute little treasure. And look how slow you can get that to move. Now watch how slow I can get the 08 and the Ginty. Look at that. They have never been that slow or able to crawl like that ever. And they'll go around this layout over the points, everything just like that. So remotor 24 volts.